Good day and hello, my name is Brian. My prior video was labeled Tools of Thought, Rambling and Explanation. And it was very rambling in a lot of ways. I was just trying to figure out what to actually talk about next. And, asking some feedback from people I do see on a regular basis about some of the things I talk about on here. But I also talk to people also in real life. Is, what type of video should I do next? Most common interest that I've been asked for is an explanation of the tools themselves, which got me thinking in a lot of ways, which led to the first video somewhat. Just pretty much was a ramble. But, of course, because of that and also because of what people are asking and stuff, it made me think a little bit more about, how to explain sort of the tools themselves. And I realized that part of the point behind this is not necessarily to explain the tools. What? The point is, in this case, is to use the tools themselves to look at the tools. And the point of that is not necessarily for me to guide you through that, but for other people to do it, for people to do it themselves. And that's the interesting thing about the way the tools work, is it's like handing someone anything, any type of tool, mechanism, or anything else. And the question is, one, how to learn how to use it, but then two is, can you then use those tools to take it apart and understand how it works? That's actually sort of what the tools do in their own sense. And you can use the tools to actually look at how those tools work after you've gotten experienced at using them. And that part of the point is some of the interesting things that you'll learn from how the tools themselves are put together by looking at how the tools work. And the point is not necessarily for me to guide people through how to do that. Because part of the learning experience is figuring it out on your own. Because if you just hand to everyone exactly what they are and stuff, they don't learn to understand how, in their own way, how things are put together. And that's part of what the tools are supposed to do also, is to help people understand things. Partially is to understand how you might be looking at something, or understand how to phrase what a problem might be, or how to phrase an answer to a certain problem that you see. Or from there also just seeing what someone else's perspective is, to be able to phrase what the situation is to them. And part of that, like I said, is one, learning how to use the tools. But then, since like I said, I'm not going to explain how the tools themselves work to some degree, because you can use the tools themselves to do that. You start looking at how they work. You start using the tools themselves to see how it all goes together. And that's pretty much all we really want to say about explaining how the tools work in some ways. Because a good tool, or a good set of tools, can then of course be used to make the same tools, or to make better tools or different tools for your own use. And I guess it's a tendency of culture in the world as it is right now, that most people don't really think about how to craft the tool that they are given. I guess in some ways, if you want to go back to some basic tools, of course, you think like a hammer. Well, you can usually make a hammer from a rock, but how do you make a hammer? What's the skills necessary to make a hammer? The crafting of the head, the shaft, and everything else needed to craft a hammer. And then from there, designing a hammer, is what other tools can you craft once you have a hammer? Well, with the impact and stuff, you can then probably, just a standard blacksmith hammer type idea, is you can then start molding metal and everything else to craft other tools, which then you can use to craft other tools. And using some of those tools, you can then go back and probably better improve upon the original tool to some degree. And that's the whole thing, is first you have to sort of get good at using the original tool to make other tools, which then you can use to flip back and possibly improve the tool, but also understand how that tool might be used in the first place. Because once you understand how a tool is used, you can then think about how to improve it, if it needs improvement or not. And it doesn't matter if it can be improved or if it needs improvement. Part of it is by understanding how it works, you can better understand how to use it also. Better circumstances, better ability to use the leverage. Part of that comes from the skill of using the tool, but also by understanding, by looking at the tool itself, how it works. And that's pretty much the same thing I said at the beginning of this in a different way. Is if you actually find anything interesting that I talk about in here, mostly on the tools, pretty much this has been a discussion for most of the stuff I've done as presenting different tools or different perspectives I've grasped from using the tools. Try out the tools, see what they mean to you. Figure out how that you understand them and what they mean to you. But then from there is once you get skilled at using them, looking at different things and stuff and building up different things or inspecting things, well, then inspect the tools themselves and see what you get out of it. And that's all it really is. I hope you have a beautiful day.